Hello and welcome. I'm Lee Warren, and you likely found me through Queen of Death or Reclaiming Wisdom, and we may be about to work together in some capacity. I am doing this little video to introduce you to my baseline principles for working with death. And it's helpful, I think, for my clients to know where I'm coming from. And there's no need to remember these principles in our work together, as they will emerge organically and as needed. Principles are designed to be sort of a guiding essence for our work together. And these principles work harmoniously and synergistically together, even if they sometimes might be contradictory. So you can see the 10 principles here on the screen, or sorry, the 9 principles, the sacred number 9. And I'm going to just go through each one of them in a little bit of depth. The first one is intention is everything. Intention is the magic carpet on which everything we do together rides. It takes us from where we are now to where we want to be. And there's an approach to intention setting that is twofold. It's yang and it's yin. And the yang approach to intention setting is to be very clear about where you want to be on the other side of this process. How do you want to be changed? How do you want your life to be different? What specific things in your life are the outcomes of our work together? That could be 1 to 5 bullet points or statements of how you'd like to see things to be different. That's a more direct and structured and ordered approach to intention setting, and it's really good and it's really important, and we'll use that as a baseline for our work. The yin approach to intention setting is sort of the opposite, which is to get into the intuitive and creative mindset and brainstorm a list of 15 questions you have going into this work. Let the mind and heart wander, and there is no question off limits. We may or may not answer all these questions, but the act of asking them gets the inquiry methodology moving in the system. And that once that is flowing, it really helps this sort of river of intention be flowing. And I really love to read these 15 questions. So I'd love for you to bring those to the session with me or to send them to me in advance. The second principle in our work with death and dying and end of life is death as teacher, death as gift. As a guide of these practical and mystical mysteries that are end of life, I assume that we're all healing from death denial, death illiteracy, death negativity, and death phobia. What that means for most of us is that the act of dying, the state of being dead, the contemplation of death, and the grieving of the dead has been really left out of our lives. It's been out of sight, out of mind, and out of reach. That likely means that we've really discussed death. We've not been around much death. We've not had the opportunity to consider our own deaths, what happens after death, or how to plan accordingly for death. We often don't have access to elders on this side or ancestors on the other side to help guide our way. But this is not true of other cultures, of other traditions, of other times, and it does not need to be true of us. The truth here is that contemplating death, ours and others, is a deeply empowering practice that allows us to live more fully in the present. It gives us more access to the immense gratitude we have for the miracle of our own present time existence. And there's no other mechanism quite as powerful in bringing us face to face with profound awe. Our own death is the last and greatest contribution we'll make in this lifetime, and it's an incredible opportunity to give our biggest gifts and receive the biggest gifts. The fact that we die in and of itself is also a gift. As poet Andrea Gibson says, I did not meet this life until I met its brevity. I did not meet my voice until I knew every word could be my last. And I did not know what prayer was until I started praying. for what I already have. The death of others is sometimes hard to receive as a gift, and this is where we need community and grieving and some of these other important principles. The third principle is the body knows how to die. If we knew anything about embryology, we'd know that there's something really intelligent unfolding about our existence. You formed this miracle with the help of whatever force of nature guided you and your spirit of animation. There's immense wisdom that resides in the body. The body holds everything we need, given the right context and the right ingredients. The body is a fractal of the whole. Our spiraling veins and capillaries are like root systems of plants. The complex neurology inside of us is like galaxies. The question along the path from birth to death is, can we receive these endless gifts? So the part of the practice together is how to be aware of and an allowance of that deep intelligence that resides inside of us. And part of the goal of our work together is to live into this truth, to find our own unique body's blueprint for our death, or how to handle the death of another. The blueprint is in us is the untouched essence of our own soul and our own existence, and it knows how to do this life, and it knows how to transition from this life, and it knows how to do beyond this life. The fourth principle is that there's a gift in every fear. If we're going to start to get into the body and follow its wisdom, we need to be able to be present with whatever is there. And the truth is, the body holds our divinity, but it also holds our imprints, our traumas, and our incomplete beliefs. The conversation about death brings up a myriad of feelings and experiences, and sometimes hard ones, sometimes ones that we haven't really had the support to sit with yet. Anger, fear, disappointment, disgust, sometimes joy and relief. Confronting the fact of our own or another's death really does plunge us often into a state of groundlessness and insecurity and anxiety. Generally speaking, our defense response to that is clinging and control and the illusion of security, which can often cause more trouble than it solves. So a central tenet of my work and how I approach this is that these parts of us are not only welcome, they're important, because the only way through is to befriend and embrace. So we get to hang out in these places, sometimes scary places together, and we're going to feel it. I'm going to be right there with you, helping you regulate and using the community of us and the larger community of all that is to be present in those difficult places. I love the great Buddhist nun Pema Chodron, who says that sticking with uncertainty, getting the knack of relaxing in the midst of chaos, learning not to panic, this is the spiritual path. She also says, when there's no ground to stand on, don't consider it an obstacle. Consider it a remarkable stroke of luck. When we have no ground to stand on, we can let it soften and inspire us. So finally, we get to be in our experience. The tools that I use to be with these parts are gentleness, embodiment, and regulation. As we're able to tolerate these places, we eventually come to see that fear is a blessing. And we feel immense gratitude because the wind underneath our magic carpet taking us towards intention are those experiences. Whenever we set an intention, the things that are in the way of it, blocking it, come up to be loved and cherished and integrated so we can sail on together. The fifth principle, developing an intimacy with the mystery. Regardless of who surrounds us at the moment of our death, the experience will be between us and our infinite or eternal part of us. We need to find a way to build a relationship with this part of us. The essence or divinity within us will guide us. It's really versed in the bigger picture. If we have a strong relationship with our essence, we'll be steeped in a world where we're related, connected, and familiar. In our ideal world, we would have had a lifetime of opportunity to work with this principle, but most of us have not. We can only start where we are. Part of this is that language is limited and also really specific for each person. And there are many names for this. And I want to work with the names and essences and flavors of this part of us, the mystery, that really works for you. There's the soul, spirit, highest self, or self with a capital S. There's God, goddess, divine, mother, father, infinite intelligence. We can come at this through thinking about inner voice or intuition or consciousness. The intelligence of the body is a great way to phrase this. Mystery, awe, or transcendence, the quantum, or the cosmos, or the nothingness, or the laws of nature, cycles, and regeneration. The sacred unknown, the generous present moment. So part of our work together is to find the right way to hold this, to think about it, and to turn up the volume on this primary relationship. Principle 6, it takes a village, tapping into support and resources. We are meant to live and die surrounded by an intact matrix of wholeness. And even though that's not the kind of world that many of us have experienced, overall, I believe there's hope. We are collectively finding our way back to being a village together on many levels in this time. Conscious death and dying is one of those profoundly emergent areas right now. We stand on the shoulders of hospice and so many pioneers in this work. The group field around us is ripe and intelligent. If we know how to tap into the right place, there is support, wisdom, and an evolutionary pattern that develops in us, unfolds in us by being informed by the field around us. It's where we're headed, and it's very available. Principle 7, preparation helps. In all of my end-of-life education, I incorporate both internal and external preparation for death. These are the practical and mystical components that help us engage and come to terms with the temporary nature of our existence. If you're coming to me, you or a loved one may not have the luxury of a lot of time to prepare, so it's important that we prioritize what makes the most sense with the amount of time, the capacity, and the context of your situation. And being prepared doesn't necessarily mean we'll get everything we want. In fact, we can have the most finely honed plan and get something completely different. But what preparation does do is it starts to open us up to the world of understanding, literacy, acceptance, and positivity about death. Our culture is filled with a lack of information, or worse, misinformation about dying. And one of the hardest things about not having the information we need, or the wrong information, is that we get confused signals within us. We can't reference our own guidance or our own wisdom. And we're often forced to make choices that aren't aligned with us. So that's not a great situation, because for most of us, we can handle and deal with a lot of complex and hard things as long as we're able to be part of the process of deciding what happens to us. So as we prepare, we get more comfortable with our options and choices, and we have agency. We get more confident to ask questions and find our own truth amidst the options. And we get more empowered in what we want and adjusting if we don't get what we want. So preparation paves the way for seeing death as teacher, death as gift. Principle 8, leaning into a good death. I define a good death as one in which we're walking towards it. And if we were in an intact village system, we'd be walking towards it from the day we were born. But since those systems are in process, here are some of the qualities that make for a good death. When we can be receptive, of the love and support around us, when we have some level of acceptance and relaxation about death, and when we can rejoice in that liminal, mysterious in between zone. So, developing some of these qualities, letting go, being present, trusting the process, learning to receive. And then there are also qualities that might be very important to you that you might want to lean into and develop, like wildness or ecstasy or embodiment and empowerment or a sense of peace. We're going to find these qualities together and do what we can to play creatively with them to help them guide the process. Principle 9, the healing power of pleasure. We've talked already about the awareness of trauma and how it resides in the body. And my work with death and dying is very trauma informed. It's also Tantra informed. And Tantra is the ancient spiritual teaching which encourages enlightenment from this very existence and within these bodies and within these sensations, this life force moving through us. So, at best, we're all students of embodiment. We don't get embodied here just by virtue of being born. In fact, for most of us, it takes a very long time and a journey of travails to get here. So we're learning. And until we find our final breath is before us, we can continue to learn. And there may be pain and fear in the body, and that's welcome. But we'll also anchor into the places that are resourced and pleasurable. Part of this principle here, as much as possible, is to find joy, amazement, and pleasure in the body while we have them. I hope this was helpful for you. I'm going to stop sharing here. And yes, I hope that was helpful for you. Please let me know if you have questions about these principles, and we'll likely talk about them on our session together. Many blessings.